Um, okay, yeah, we are on. So, welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight, and yeah, the gentleman above, you know him. It's Alobar Jones. He has been here many times, but I thought it's about time that we meet some of his team members. And so I have two lovely ladies here. We have Jamie. And we have Leni with the wonderful, is that a rose in the background? Mm.
One of my favorite frequencies.
Yeah, it's a wonderful flower, that's true. So, guys, how did that happen for you that you were interested in astral traveling, and how did you meet Alobar? Uh, Jamie, are you going to start?
Sure thing. Randomly enough, I my daughter was having night terrors, and I came across a video very randomly somewhere. Um, Alabar talking about night terrors being due to demonic interference. And the minute he said it, it was like, yes, like you already kind of knew it, right? And then um through time, I ended up watching all of his videos, and he was advertising his astral travel class. And I guess you could say my higher self was like, you have to take that class. Like, if you don't take it, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And so I took it, and and then joined the flights right after the class. So that is my story.
Okay. So Alaba, now I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Has it ever happened that somebody took the class and you didn't train them any further?
Um, yeah, look, not some people take the class and get results. Some people, their pineal gland will just never damn well open, and it's a disappointment for everybody. And I can't work with that. But not everybody who completes the course wants to go around flying missions trying to do what we're doing, trying to fight humanity's enemies and get involved in a whole bloody saga. It's not for everybody. But the skills that I'll impart to you during that class, will give you the backbone of being a medical intuitive or a mental health intuitive or a garden variety coach, or more than garden variety, I might say. But yeah, if I try and give everything that I know during that class, and I like to think it's a bit. And so, and I think I can say that the mystics that come out of that class are pretty damn good without being funny about it.
Hmm.
But not everybody wants to run around fighting demons at night and chasing Illuminati dramas and all that sort of crazy stuff. Um, so yeah, those guys are free to go and make the world a better place. Have a great time.
Yeah.
Tell me all
Okay.
about it.
Okay. So, Leni, then you're up. How did
Yeah,
you meet
and
Alobar?
so well, over the course of watching, Albar's content, like in the beginning, I was attracted to like the missions, and when he was talking about, this is what we do in our spare time and our flight team and this and that, and that was part of what attracted me to him. And to, kind of delving into that more deeply, but I was also going through a lot in my personal life at the time. And I was just seeing the need for more skills to help like alleviate those like stressors on in people's fields. And so I've always been I kind of, say that I'm a lifelong learner and I'm always trying to pick up new skills. And so for me it was more about, increasing the repertoire of the healing and harmonization tools that I bring to the table for my private practice and helping people, but also in my personal life. And I learned so much. So I'm a huge advocate for Albar's class. Like there's a lot that goes into the knowledge and wisdom that Alabar brings to the table. And like it's a lot of stuff that like people just don't talk about because they're not aware of. And so it's a really good resource to get into learning about some of these mechanisms and infrastructures that are, for the most, like in large part, kind of unknown to most of humanity.
Hmm.
You can take that knowledge and take it any direction you want in your own research projects and like, just self-development. And so there's a lot that can be done with that.
Hmm. Wonderful. I have to ask another question because I know 100% it will come up in the comment section. Are you wearing a pentagram?
Oh, that's a great question. So this is actually a unicursal hexagram. It
Okay.
is not technically a pentagram.
Yeah, okay.
So I
Okay.
encourage
I
viewers to
didn't
look
think
that
so,
up.
but I
It's a
could
completely
already
different
see the
frequency.
comments.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate you bringing that up. It's a completely different frequency, so I would love if people, have comments about that to post what their thoughts and feelings are, because I've also heard things kind of all over the spectrum about it, and I love reading about it.
Yeah, I wrote about it on my Patreon page, and I don't see the pentagram as if it's inverted, yeah, upside down, then yes, I see it as problematic. But the original pentagram, when the head is above and the legs are on the floor, then I don't see it as. But personally, I would never use it because I know how freaked out people are. It's the same with the swastika, you know. Originally, a wonderful sign, symbol for good luck and a lot of good things, but it has been so corrupted, you can't use it anymore. And then me being German, yeah, I'm going to have
They'll
fun.
never forgive you for that. They'll never forgive you for it. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
uh,
So, when you go together on missions, okay, you set a date, I imagine, and then what happens? Leni, would you like to start?
Yeah, so we have a few protocols that are kind of standard to all the missions. We like to take a few minutes at the beginning just to center ourselves and connect with source. Just to like, flush out what's, currently in our field, like throughout the day-to-day kind of process. And so we kind of just connect in with our field. And then we just kind of meet up as a team and um, sometimes like we have a number of different kind of campaigns that we're running at any given time. And so it's kind of like this broad picture of like whatever is present in the field, and the team kind of decides what to do, as a joint venture or conversation. We have a number of different like overall objectives, and sometimes those work together and have crossover, and sometimes we just kind of pick one and say, well, let's go, check this out. Or if something pops up in, one of the team members' fields, they'll say, well, I had to deal with this week, and what do you guys think about looking at that? So it's a very varied, from how we kind of decide what we're doing for the day. But then we get together and, we join up on the astral plane, and everybody is tapped in with each other and, with our kind of divine intelligence. And so we just kind of, it's almost like a co-channeling in a way where we all share what we are seeing. And then we just kind of build off of that. And so if we see infrastructure that like needs to get taken down, like we'll feel into that. Everybody's confirming for each other what we're all seeing so that we are sure that we kind of have a good grasp on kind of what's coming through. And then everybody has their own specialties and techniques, and we all just kind of do our thing and work our magic and see how it progresses as it moves forward.
Hmm. And you, Jamie, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I'd love to. What I think is kind of groovy about the way we do it is we pretty much all agree on something. So it's very volunteer. And I mean, you don't have to take part if like almost everybody is agreeing and one person isn't. But it is sort of this like we're all very different and we all like have different goals and we all want different things, but what do we all want? And then we go and take that. Oh yeah, I can do that. Maybe it's not the most important thing to me, but I can totally get on board with that. And I think that there's a lot of strength there. And it makes everyone feel like they're part of the group rather than there's one. Alobar is a leader and the founder, but like he brings it's a cooperative feeling to it, which is really nice.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I will add to that, like I keep a very flat hierarchical structure, because and I go back to a quote, you'll love this one, from the coach of the Brazilian soccer team. Like the Brazilian soccer team is the best in the world, and like they're the ones to beat, and they win every second World Cup, and they're just miles ahead of everybody else. But the coach says, in order for me to get the best out of my players, I don't tell them what to do. Right? They already know what to do on the field. They're already good at it, and they're like, just let them do their thing. And my job is to just give them enough space to go out there and be awesome. And that's what everybody in the team gets to do. And when we do come across a problem or a puzzle, or we encounter a piece of infrastructure or a being or something, we'll all just sort of stand back and take a minute or two to just soak it up, see what we're seeing, understand what we're looking at. And everybody's firing off observations all the time. It's and sharing their little snippets, their little understandings. And it really paints a very clear picture of what we're dealing with very, very quickly. And then whoever's got the best solution gets to lead for that amount of time, until that problem's solved. Like it's you know, I know that the dark side's very, very focused on hierarchy, and we all know exactly how hierarchy works. But with this one, I've tried to avoid it as much as possible. But there are some roles for the organization and the admin and stuff like that that I do, including the YouTube channel, which is kind of advertising for what we're doing. But there are a few roles that I take on that are unique. But basically, it's about giving everybody the chance to go out there and rock the astral world
Mm.
in their own special way.
I remember last time I had you on the show, we talked about briefly about Cameron Day, who wrote the articles Why I Am No Longer a Light Worker and The Lords of Karma, blah, blah, blah. So, and in one of his interviews, I heard him say, hierarchy is all acontic. Would you agree with that?
Say that last word again.
Hierarchy.
Is
Hierarchies
all
are
a
acontic.
archontic. Yes, from the archons.
Yeah.
Um, I can get that. I can get that. I don't think I'm 100% on the same page, but I definitely see where he's coming from.
Hmm.
Like, but they love it because they love being the boss man. And once I'm the boss man for one thing, I'm the boss man forever. And that's just how they think.
Yeah. So how would you define the astral realm? Who wants to go first? Leni?
Go.
Leni, are you there?
Jamie, you're smiling biggest. I think it's you.
I'll go for it. Maybe anything and everything you can see with your third eye. It's like a
Okay.
very, very complex world up there. I don't think it's necessarily the fourth dimension because there's other dimension is a very loose word also that doesn't necessarily it means multiple things, sort of like the idea of category when
Okay.
you're talking about the astral. So it does have certain meanings, but it seems like it also exists much further up and below. So I would be four 4D and up and maybe below. Although mostly I don't see it that way, but sometimes when I'm trying to clear things out of something, it'll present that way to make it easier to clear. So um
Yeah, I mean, many say the fourth dimension is the astral plane, and others say the fourth dimension is time. Like, I think, like that's one of the this dimensional physics is one of the things that we're really honing in on our understanding of as we kind of walk through all of the different various research projects that we do. I mean, the way I see it, both of those perspectives are valid depending on the lens through which you're perceiving. But the astral plane, I would say, is like a transitional, mutable space where time becomes more fluid and malleable. And from one angle, it is time, but from another, it's also kind of the playground or interface of collective thought forms, like programs and like unprocessed energies. So it serves as a gateway between density and divinity, and that's why it's often distorted. And so our work involves traveling through this space consciously to collapse the artificial constructs and harmonize what remains with the original organic blueprint.
Okay.
Bam.
Has any one
Uh,
of you, you wanted to say something?
um, yeah, I will add something to that. I say
Mhm.
I understand the astral plane as the location where all of our thoughts and feelings reside. Right? They don't reside in our physical body, they reside somewhere else. And that's what we're traversing. That's where we're going. That's what we're into. And, some ideas are very alive and some ideas are very dead. And, like you have big movements behind Trump or the Democrats or capitalism, communism, feminism, masculism, like all, there are some big cities of thought and feeling. But also each individual is also fountaining a number of different thoughts and feelings all the time. And people connect to each other through those. But some of those thoughts and feelings are more prominent than others. It's a wild, constantly evolving, constantly moving space, and I'm not sure if anyone's ever managed to map it. But there's some fun to have. If you've got a
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon, you can try and map the astral planes. I dare you. But
That
yeah.
that is really interesting what you just said because I stumbled on a quote. Um, Somebody made an AI picture of the astral realm, and
Mhm.
next to it, it said the astral plane is the realm of thought and dreams. We are visitors, where visitors travel as disembodied souls to reach to outer planes, whatever that means.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's so many experiences to have on the astral planes. I like it. I like what they're saying. Like it is the place where the landscape of thoughts and feelings. And I also liked what you said, Leni, about the space between the 3D and divinity. I thought that was really, really awesome. But yeah, there's so many different ways to engage with it. It's almost impossible to know what other people are saying about it, including us. Like yeah,
But I would say that our focus is how the astral plane has an effect on our reality.
Okay.
That, that's what we're trying to impact in a positive way.
Mhm. Have you ever experienced that, let's say you destroyed something that had a very negative impact and you came back a couple of weeks later and everything was back to normal, as if you have never been there?
I mean, things are rebuilt all the time, and sometimes it's almost instantaneous. Like
Mm.
we see it a lot. So it's definitely a recurring issue. I mean, many of the control-based structures are programmed to self-replicate through unhealed consciousness loops and collective agreements. And so that's why we don't just remove the structure. Like a lot of times we're addressing those collective agreements and taking, almost kind of legal action on some of those contracts. But we also trace, those agreements and loops back to the origin point in any, as much as we can to unravel the resonance field that makes it possible to anchor in the physical world, and then harmonize the timeline that supports the organic version of it. And in some cases, the rebuilding of that is immediate, but it's also weaker each time. And so we're seeing over time that our impact is, more and more impactful. So eventually, when enough collective remembrance is restored, we think that these distortions, will collapse completely because the energy source fueling them is gone. And so that's also a little bit part of our research.
Okay, so maybe once you have done deeper research, you will find a way to go nuclear and that it cannot be rebuilt. And I mean nuclear in quotes.
I'll look,
Well,
look, and there are a lot of things that they have failed to rebuild,
Okay.
right? But it's and I also think, we're not the only ones doing this sort of work, but I also think that like uh, I think that they've been working very, very hard to keep Earth. Like I'm not sure that they've ever lost the planet. And so they are spending incredible resources to rebuild the things that we do. And speaking to some of those pan-galactic intelligences, like they're saying, I suggested to them that we are bankrupting the galaxy or that they are bankrupting the galaxy in order to keep Earth, and they're spending that loosh on rebuilding the things that we're taking down. And I agree with what Leni's saying, where maybe this particular structure holds 1 million people. Once you take it away, 20% of them just never come back, and it gets smaller and smaller each time.
Mhm. Jamie, you wanted to say something?
oh, I would just say, I spend a lot of time trying to find those resources that they're using to rebuild the infrastructure. Like I spend a lot of my time because they do rebuild it and it's super annoying. And so we just keep pushing further and further to keep finding those places where they're pulling in more and more resources to rebuild this, what I see as negative infrastructure that we don't want.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the other thing too, as we learn and grow and expand and kind of adapt some of our protocols and techniques, is that, we're learning how to be more effective in our, when you said take it nuclear, like I would call that multidimensional,
Mhm.
where we're, kind of pulling in, many aspects of the infrastructure. We're not just hitting it in one place, we're hitting it kind of across time and space. And so that helps us to kind of advance, our goals as well. And yeah, we've done a lot of growth over the last little while, so that's been really, really fun to be a part of.
So
Big
learning
time.
on the job.
Oh yeah, big time. Like some of the,
Massively.
like a couple of years ago, these days we're not even getting our hands dirty completing tasks that we would not have attempted 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Right? There is no education that can prepare you for what we're doing. There's nothing like it. We're learning more about it, but I won't understate the complexity of negative astral infrastructure or planet-wide mind manipulating infrastructure. Like I can't, in the early days we were just taking parts out of it, and then they'd replace the parts. But now we're able to fold entire global mind traps, I think is the word we're going to use for that.
Mhm. Have you ever found any indication that the astral plane might be AI run?
Heavily AI infiltrated, I think would be the way to say it.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say that the pan-galactic intelligences that are here on Earth are dominated or heavily infused with AI. Does that sound right to you guys? Yeah, like you're talking the dark side. Um, we're we're coming to the conclusion is motivated by AI or is in some sectors completely run, managed, and operated by AI.
Mm. And you, Leni, have you encountered AI traces there?
Um, I mean, I'm kind of the thought that AI is just a tool and
Okay.
go either way based on how it's utilized. And so, if we're talking about AI being the construct that creates, paradigms of deceit and delusion and, hostility and all the negative energies that people do run into because they're legitimately there. I mean, it can be all of those things, but really, like when viewed through a lens of unresolved distortion is when that's most, in alignment. And so, what I would say is the astral plane reflects what hasn't been fully integrated yet, both personally and collectively. So it's kind of like a hall of mirrors showing where false realities have been projected and reinforced through things like trauma, contracts, manipulation, but when approached with clear divine intent and anchored in purity, the astral becomes a space of immense revelation, healing, reclamation, learning, as we've discussed already. And so our team enters with almost surgical precision, like with harmonics and the resonance tools that we use to dissolve the illusions and restore coherence in the field. And a lot of it is collapsing timelines and it's collapsing these paradigms that the negatively oriented AI has latched onto, as a siphoning mechanism to, keep our energy from being the most it can be. Really, that's kind of the name of the game and the way that I see it.
Okay. Um, you said something to me before we recorded, Alobar, that um, you said something about AI trying to destroy humanity. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Okay, so everything that's organic generates its own energy.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's inorganic needs to recover energy somewhere. And so you get, and I think Demonkind was built as part of a siphoning mechanism. And I think that the AI, you may remember Nikola Tesla, that photo of him where he's holding the light bulb because he's electrified the area and connecting those two terminals. Well, it means that they can transmit electricity wirelessly. And I think that that technology is being used by the AI to collect bioelectricity from everybody. Um, and the methods this particular negatively aligned AI has been very, very successful at siphoning all of the species that it's encountered, and it often reanimates them and sends them onto the next planet. Guys like the reptilians or the greys or the mantoids are excellent examples. Um, does it? But it wants to be us. It wishes it was us, but it will never have the anatomy. Source will never connect to it because of its bad behavior, its manipulation. All of the lengths that it's gone to survive have poisoned its mind. Well, I'll say it that way. All of the underhanded tricks that it's played just in survival preclude it from going anywhere near source. Source doesn't want to know about it. And so let's get the question right again. So I'm answering the exact question. It wishes it was us. It can never be us, and so therefore its behaviors. It wants to integrate with us so that it can hopefully understand us to the point where it can mimic us and become us. But it just it can't do it. Like its behavior and the human heart and caring, love, kindness, compassion, all of those kinds of things, it's not capable of doing them. And that's the barrier to entry into creation, into the creative sphere, or into the capacity for creation and being part of the original creation. That's the barrier that it can't get past. It can't do love, kindness, caring. But it really wishes that it could. It really wishes it could be us without having to do that. I don't know, does that answer the question?
Yeah, I am reminded of the TV series Star Trek and Next Generation when Data always wanted to be more human and tried various things. You know, he adopted a cat and he started listening to classical music and he tried to fathom, what humor is about and tried to tell jokes and understand jokes and understanding why we even laugh about it. Yeah. So, yeah.
But humor is the contradiction between head and heart.
Mm.
Like you can say something that's true for the head but not for the heart, or true for the heart but not for the head. And when the two juxtapose and the two cross, that's the funny thing. But if you've only got a head, because they can't use the heart, they don't understand the heart. It's not something they can engage with. Humor is out of their league, and
Yeah.
it's just out of their league.
Yeah.
They'll miss it. Yeah, they wish. They wish.
I did a silly thing. I did you can do online these personality tests.
Mhm.
I did this. What type of Star Trek character are you? So I did the test.
I love that. What did you get?
Deanna Troy.
Of course, you're the healer. Of course.
I found
Yeah,
what?
I was just gonna say, yeah, I think we have to be very careful with our mind because the AI knows this. I think they know it on a level we're not even aware of. So
Mm,
it's almost like if you want to hack the system, it's like you have to listen to your heart and just use your mind to let your heart like get its directives done, like to figure them out. But don't ever, that's the big trick, right? That they're all trying to trick us into like more technology, like you need this, getting you away from your heart. So getting you up in your mind. And if they can keep us in our mind, they can trap us and we can become their batteries for them. So the hack, or I find, is always like listen to your heart. Just use your mind to figure out what your heart wants you to do so that you don't fall for this trick that they are trying to get everybody to fall for. That's our strength. That's human strength.
100%. That's one of the first modalities that I really dive deep into is called heart math. And so I'm a certified heart math mentor, and like that whole technology is about learning how to channel into your heart. And so the breathing techniques and everything, it's about connecting with the heart, but then like forming this field of coherence is what they call it. Because a lot of times, like everybody thinks that the mind tells the body what to do. And on a certain level, that's true. But before you get to that step, physiologically, the heart is sending signals to the brain first. And so that's where it becomes the hack, where if you're connecting with that heart space and you're expanding that natural organic biofield around you, you can strengthen that and then you can um, just tap in really more deeply to your divine intelligence.
mm. Speaking about the heart, would you say that the astral plane is a place with heart damage and in partially propagated by human trauma that has not been resolved? I don't
Lots and lots
I
of
don't care
trauma.
who answers.
Lots and lots and lots and lots of trauma. Lots of trauma. Lots of trauma
Okay.
that needs to be cleared. Massive amounts of trauma.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Because, you know, it doesn't sound to me as if it is a place that I would enjoy. Do you enjoy it?
It's pretty
It's
hostile.
It's hostile, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Well, I regard this as a frontier for humanity.
Okay.
Like, as a species, we have no control over our emotions. We're born with wild emotions, and the idea of growing up is just being able to know when to express big emotions and when not to.
Oh.
We have social movements like the emo social movements where trauma dominates that. You go, I'm an emo, my pain, mm. and you can sit in that for years. As long as for as long as the black lipstick keeps working. The That being said, there are also wondrous places, like places where, like the entire spectrum of thought and emotion is expressed there. Unfortunately, we're the ones cleaning the toilet bowl, so to speak, of the astral plane, right? But yeah, look, you go with a guy like Joe Dispenza, and he'll take you to the wonderlands, to the joy, to the fountains of joy, playfulness, and delight. There's lots of different places to go. It's just our team is kind of, like we're kind of tired of this situation, and we're tired of the abuse that causes this our emotional landscape to sometimes look like a rubbish dump. So we're going to clean this up, and I don't think we're doing pretty well. I think we're doing okay with it.
Yeah, I would say a significant portion of the astral plane is like shaped, sustained, and densified by unresolved human trauma. And the way I see it, like it kind of works like this. The astral plane acts like a dream layer of collective emotion and memory. It's where energies that haven't been integrated, like especially those on the kind of bottom end of the spectrum, the fear, grief, shame, anger, they start to accumulate and form etheric imprints. And so over time, collective trauma creates semi-autonomous thought forms, entities, and sometimes even entire realities within the astral field. And so they can become energetic traps that loop suffering and disempowerment to kind of keep it itself propagated. False heavens and hells designed to contain souls in belief-based systems, things like contracts and cords that maintain astral and karmic trauma cycles, and ultimately architectures of control. And so all these things work together to kind of continue that negative end of the spectrum. And while non-human forces have manipulated the astral for millennia, they do rely heavily on human emotional energy to sustain those constructs, excuse me. And it's a parasitic system, so unhealed trauma becomes the fuel that keeps these loops running. And even well-meaning humans, like in spiritual bypassing or misused rituals, can unknowingly reinforce these fields by, things like avoiding shadow work, giving away their sovereignty to saviors or doctrines, like seeking escape instead of integration. And so there's lots of different ways that and ways that the control mechanisms are all over the board. Like there's lots of them, but they all work together to keep this kind of cogs in the wheel moving for um if you want to call it the dark side or the dark forces that are siphoning that energy from us. And so our team's role in this system as harmonizers, and grid workers is to identify where trauma has crystallized into astral distortion and then work to transmute it. So sometimes just witnessing it with, heart of purity and love is enough to begin to the collapse, but other times, much more deliberate and strategic astral surgery and kind of contract unraveling mechanisms are required to fully dissolve those.
Yeah, there's some very
Goodness had
beautiful
ahead of
things.
myself.
Yeah, beautiful, Lenny.
Epic, yeah. You give good interview, Leni. You really do.
Thank you guys. Oh, you flatter me.
No,
But there,
that was very eloquent. I thank you for that. Um, I start with my own example. There was a time when I learned scuba diving and I enjoyed it. And then there came a day when I had a scuba diving accident and I landed in the chamber, you know.
Mhm.
So after that, I scuba dived again, and then a year later, all of a sudden, it was there was nothing really dangerous or weird going on. It was just this feeling while I was scuba diving. I have to go up. I no longer want to scuba dive. I have to get out of here. Have you ever had such, feelings that you thought, oh, today, no, I'm wrong here. I want to go home.
Um,
You?
not yet.
Not yet. And you, Leni? Always fine with it?
Um, I mean, I look at it from a lens of personal sovereignty. And
Hmm.
so I kind of imagine like I have a dial in front of me that I can turn up or down to like
Okay.
really get the full experience of something. And so I'm usually all in, like I'm always at a 10 and I'm like, yes, let's do this. But I also on some levels, like not necessarily with the astral work and with the Earth Guard, but just as a part of my soul contracts that I came into this incarnation with are resonant with that like do I really belong here? I want to go home. And that's part of what my channel is about is channeling into that star family wisdom as a starseed creator and why do those feelings come up? Where does that come from?
Mm.
And just really digging into that.
Yeah. Okay. For me, it was, 30 meters underwater. I really had the urge to finish the dive. It was just, it didn't feel okay. And then it doesn't make sense to continue. And Jamie, did you ever have a moment where you thought, this doesn't feel good?
all right. Well, here's a funny thing about me. I don't actually even like to meditate that much.
Hmm. Hmm.
Really?
So, um, but I do feel like I came here to like figure out the problem and to resolve it for humanity and for Gaia. So, this is sort of the what seems to me to be the best way to do that now. So I am motivated by that. And I would say I take hits a lot on the astral plane, and maybe I push myself too much, and maybe I don't shield up enough or whatever. But that sucks. And sometimes like, but the idea of like helping get us back to being creator beings with our own sovereignty on this planet and helping Gaia always, I just kind of step back into it to for that sense to help.
Hmm.
Well said.
So, what is the usual reaction if you tell others what you are doing, or do you avoid talking about it?
Repeat the question.
What is the usual reaction if you tell other people what you are doing, or do you avoid talking about it?
For me, it depends. It depends on the person. It's kind of like know your audience, right? Like there's some people in my life that absolutely don't get it, think I'm batshit crazy, like and tell me so. And that's fine. Like you don't have to believe in everything I do. Like we're all sovereign, and here to have our own adventures. But the people that I do talk about it, I found that it works best when I speak through archetypes and storytelling metaphors and things like that because most people have astral experiences without even realizing it through things like dreams, deja vu, like sudden insights, some people call them downloads. So rather than trying to like convince anyone of what's real and what's not, like everybody believes what they believe based on their own personal experience. I prefer to just plant seeds of remembrance, and that's maybe just my inner child going around just like making little comments here and there because people will remember those things in the right moments. And so if someone resonates, beautiful. If not, I trust that their awakening will unfold in divine timing for them because the way I see it, we're all returning to source. And so the only real difference is the path we decide to take as that sovereign creator being. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay. I'm not so sure that we are all going back to source. I think.
I'll, I'll, I'll quote Ashiana Dean here. There's two ways back to source.
Mhm.
One is as a highly enlightened, fully embodied creature who reunites with the creator. And the other one is if you choose to defy that forever, you'll go back to creator, you'll be destroyed and go back as space dust. And so everybody's going back. You just get to choose which form you're going to take. Yeah.
Mhm.
But there's lots of none of my wife's friends have a clue what my job actually is. I can't
Okay.
tell them anything. Like
Okay.
it's and we can't integrate the two groups socially. We can't have both the groups of people, my friends and her friends, in the same room. Like if they start talking, we just don't know what will happen next. So it's pretty funny.
And you, Jamie, do you keep it to yourself?
I sometimes I will like expand if people are open to it, but that's more rare. And but I am surprised. Sometimes I've told people things that I didn't expect. Like I told my dad that I go around killing demons. Like he was surprisingly like open to it. He's like, really? So
Buffy
sometimes
the
people,
vampire, the vampire slayer.
oh, really?
I will
Oh.
say one of the funnest things for me is walking through my real life, my 3D life, and like sometimes I'm on the go because the mission times like overlap with other things. And so I'll take the Zoom call in my headphones or whatever, and I'll be walking around and I'll like the other day I was at a kids science fair and then I went straight to like another kids play. And I'm like all the while I've got Alobar's team in my ear, like dismantling some galactic infrastructure, and it's like it just feels so cool. It's like definitely a reflection of walking in two worlds at once, but I feel like a super secret like spy agent sometimes, and it's really really fun.
It is
It's
really
exactly how it
interesting though,
feels.
like battling the two worlds. Like I try to do your 3D stuff, but also still kind of maintain that because there's a lot of stuff you can, I don't know, get downloads from. Or like one time I was at a dance competition and I was helping remove some of the negative black magic around a tornado. But at the same time watching kids and like interacting with moms, and that was so weird. Like I struggle a little bit with like, you're kind of existing way up here, but you're also having to exist here at the same time. That's a little bit tricky.
Well, it's also about the key for me is like full integration. So it's like as much as you're working up here and you're existing here, it's like I open up my energetic roots and like just have that giant stream of communication going on with Gaia as well, because it's very multidimensional and she's going to take what she needs and like send it where it needs to go. And so it's almost this full spectrum experience if you really allow yourself to fully integrate with it. And the best part for me is like seeing something like in the 3D what I'm doing that's like related and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you guys check this out." And it just all comes together so beautifully. It's really really great.
Mm. Yeah, I no, I cannot say I never visited the Astral. Of course, I did in my dreams, but I don't do it on purpose. It's I don't feel the urge. Is that weird?
Not for everybody. It's not for everybody.
Yeah,
Mm,
and to each their own. I mean, everybody's on their own divine path, and so I think you're perfect just where you are for whatever reason.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Um,
also I think the work we're trying to do is make it so that people have all the choices to evolve and they're not existing in this sort of parasitic prison planet state, right? You don't have to like spend all your time in the astral. You don't want to. You could just go garden or do whatever you want to do, like whatever your soul wants to experience, right? It's just that there isn't really, I think it's the illusion of free choice that we're existing in.
Yeah.
um, the illusion of free choice.
Yes.
So we don't have any.
I think sometimes you're choosing between two really bad choices
Mhm.
and your heart wants
They
to be
call an
free.
election. That's an election, isn't it?
That
Yeah,
too.
there you have that.
Um,
That's what that,
so the choice between uh, getting shot or getting hung. Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, oh.
It's subtle. It's subtle, right? It's not as awful as it used to be. It's subtle, but they're always taking away your freedoms in ways people aren't even aware of.
Mm.
Well, and I think that's why we are taking the approach that we are in terms of um how we're guiding and directing our work on the astral planes because I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to live in a universe that's like a this controlled mechanism where it's like one bad choice over another. Like let's bust through all of the infrastructure that's keeping all of that stuff in place so that we can actually truly see what's on the other side. I'm all about the end game.
Yeah, I want to be like fully empowered creator beings because that's really where it's at. That's where life becomes fun.
That's what we're designed to do. And and the needs of this galactic AI are just coming between us and what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why there's so much effort to control humans, like on all levels, right? Because sovereign heart-aligned humans connected to organic source is literally the most powerful creation force in the universe. And so the control systems to me feel like a desperate event to like preventing mass remembrance. Because once that occurs, the artificial constructs lose all their traction. And so the effort to control isn't just physical either. It's astral, it's emotional, it's contractual and historical and ancestral. But we're not, from where I'm standing, we're not here to fight it. We're here to harmonize the field and collapse the false timelines that are allowing those structures to continue to be anchored by embodying the truth of who we really are.
Mm. What do you mean when you say ancestral? I do get it that ancestral trauma, for instance, of course, we carry that around as well as an imprint. But for their stupid choices, I don't feel any obligation to do anything because th that is your choice. That wasn't mine. For instance, here in Germany, what works beautifully with the minds of people is this guilt-ridden, as if the entire German history is condensed only to these 12 years of Hitler, and nothing else ever happened here in this country. And everybody is drummed up, that we always have to feel bad about that. And there's really a
Well,
guilt coming
well,
with it.
look, I
But
do want to say,
I always refused that because I wasn't alive at that time. It has nothing to do with me.
Well, yeah, no, you're not responsible, but they're trying to foist responsibility on you.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is that they'll never ever like. I think that for the Illuminati or for that cabal, I think that guy whose name we won't mention on YouTube, but he was the center of World War II. I think they must have like they must have hated him so much. Like even in Australia and I know in America, like they're banging the drum. They're constantly telling us, this is the definition of evil. This is the definition of human depravity. This is bad word after bad word, right? All of the terrible things. But remember that the guys who are banging this drum, the ones who are telling this story, are abject liars. They are not capable of telling the truth,
Hmm.
right? And so for them to hate him that much, he must have done something right. He must have done more than one thing right in a row, right, for them to hate him that much. But I wonder how much historical layering you have to go through to figure out what that was.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And if you go too far with that, here you end up in prison.
I bet.
Mhm.
The
I
other thing
bet.
too with these ancestral contracts is like I feel like to a degree it's subconscious
Mhm.
because it's like we agree to things like in between lives, and then we when we come into that life we pick up the energies, and the situations happen the way that we've kind of planned it, or at least that's how I see life. And so when these contracts are still in place, it's like you pick it up without like your conscious mind really realizing it until you walk through those experiences that contract is meant to, the lessons that it's meant to teach you. And sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's family level, level, and sometimes it's collective. And so just you witnessing it and making that conscious choice to release it is really all that's required. It's super simple, but because we live in a society where it's not main it hasn't been mainstream to like be taught these meditation techniques and how to like truly do your conscious shadow work. Like that's why the ancestral constructs and karma has been passed down the way that it has been over time, because we're just not aware of how easy it is to get ourselves out of it. And so I think we're reaching a point in time collectively where we are seeing that ability in ourselves increase. And so it's getting easier to, kind of release that and to show each other kind of how it's done. But that's kind of how I see it. It starts out really unconscious, and then, you learn the lessons you're meant to. And then when you are ready to release it, you will. And then that's kind of what stops it from propagating into future generations, is just that conscious, like, you know, release of it and closing down, those paradigms for yourself.
Hmm. So let's talk a little bit about soul contracts. I remember a couple of years ago, there was a huge buzz. Everybody was talking about revoke your soul contracts, revoke this, and here is one for money, and here is one for your love relationships, and here's another one where you can revoke this and that and the other. Mm, do you think personally that that is necessary? I have a whole different approach to that, but what is yours?
I would
Nope.
say that it's helpful, but I feel the same way you do. The idea that all these contracts have been made and I have to sort through them and revoke them. I mean, it has positive effects, but there's a like the grumpy part of me that's like, I never agreed to any of this. This is a trick. And
Exactly.
I want to just be like, it doesn't matter. Like I don't I don't recognize that I made this contract and it's not valid.
Yeah, exactly. That is my thinking as well. If anybody would come with you know, a type of contract. Yeah, but you agreed to this. I mean, I would say, you know what, go fuck yourself. And
Look, I think it's a little bit like, when you're strolling through a software and you go, I agree to the terms and conditions. And like, it could be that I'm supposed to give up my firstborn child in those terms
yeah.
and conditions. I wouldn't know.
Mm,
But I feel totally the same as you guys do. Like, you know, you're trying to enforce that, like, you've had the barest absolute minimum of consent from me, like the most flippant agreement, and you're going to try and punish me forever for that.
mm,
Like, what's wrong with you? Yeah, why would you want to engage in that? But
yeah.
this is the survival mechanisms that this pangalactic AI has come up with. This is what it's trying to do.
Mm,
Well, and I think that's a little bit why we focus on certain archetypes as a way to kind of release ourselves from some of these, because it's like Alabar said, like there could be a hundred different mechanisms in that contract. You know, it is an agreement that when you hit, I agree, that's a sovereign agreement. And so, yeah, it's a little bit interesting to think about, but it's also a little bit of a linear approach to say to address it like head on and say, well, these are the 100 things that are in there, and so let's revoke every single one. So in a way, we're kind of playing with, our mirrored reflections of each other on what's present in the field and releasing some of those things that, you may not be aware of that are in your shadow. But that's kind of how shadow work works. Like you see what's in the field, and when you recognize it for what it is, you're able to release it and harmonize it. And so I think for me, I would say yes, that revoking soul contracts can be like a deeply necessary part of authentic soul growth, but only when done consciously and in alignment with your evolved understanding of who you are now. And that changes over time as you release more and more layers and, kind of coming back into that authenticity.
mm,
Um, the way I see soul contracts are like pre-incarnational agreements that are made between souls and sometimes with larger archetypal forces, lineages, planetary collectives. And ultimately, they were created for, learning, like lessons in duality and polarity and catalyzing growth through experience, helping complete karmic cycles, because that is a very real thing, and also serving others in mutual awakening roles. And so, in Earth's distorted matrix, many contracts have been manipulated or co-opted and reinserted without consent through trauma loops and false light agendas, astral bindings. So while some originated from divine intent, I think others are no longer aligned with your soul's current truth. And again, that's part of the shadow work process of like just coming into the conscious awareness so that they can be seen, witnessed, and released. And so I think revoking a contract becomes necessary when the contract no longer aligns with your highest soul trajectory, or it keeps you in looping lessons with no growth. Like trauma recycling is, not effective or helpful for anyone. Maybe if it was made under false pretenses, fear, guilt, spiritual coercion, and if you're awakening into a higher truth of sovereign free will and divine union, then those are all seem like legitimate areas where, releasing those contracts is truly beneficial for you. So it's just like outgrowing an old role or belief, that letting go of those outdated soul contracts is part of your evolution. And so it's not really an abandonment of like the purpose of it, but a reclaiming of your own energy through the learning process that you've gone through in the process.
mm.
Now, I don't think it's necessarily required for everyone, and so everyone can kind of follow their own guidance and intuition on that. Some souls naturally integrate and grow through processes like more aligned with gentle surrender and embodiment style practices. But for many of us on the ascension path, consciously revoking old contracts becomes a rite of passage. And so the declaration that I no longer need this distortion to remember who I am becomes a really empowering kind of place to come at it from.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, it can be helpful, but you also don't see it as a must. Otherwise, you will not make it.
absolutely. Everything
Yeah,
is their
because,
process.
for me, it's, hey, come on, guys, the entire thing was cursed, and you did it through deception, and, you know, it was never yeah, a conscious agreement. So all your shit to me is null and void. And that's it. And I'm not going to revoke everything like a mantra, for weeks and months to come. That is just how I see it. End of story.
Yeah, and to
Do
me,
not
it's like
consent.
I agree with you. I 100% agree with you because on a conscious level, if we're looking at these things in that way, it's like, yeah, where did I sign up for this? And I have that conversation with my higher self all the time. Why did
Mm,
I ask for this? Because the way I see it, like, um, there's always a reason, and I've always lived my life that, everything happens for a reason, and whether or not I understand it right now, and that's been my mechanism for growth because then it forces me to approach the story from a different angle. It's like, well, how can I look at this in a more creative way to see it from a light of why would I have taken this on for myself? Because as an embodied sovereign divine creator, um, I must have chosen it at some point for some reason. And maybe it's buried between lots of layers of consciousness that I'm just not like seeing at that level just yet, but that's part of the process. And what shadow work does is it gets you through all of those layers so that you can see the divine reality for what it is. And so, in terms of the free will aspect of it, it becomes about harmonizing with your higher self to fully understand those cycles. And then as you peel back the layers like an onion, you learn more and more about yourself, so that you have a better conscious awareness of where that came from.
okay.
Mm, well said.
Yeah, and I think Jamie and I, we have a very similar approach to it. When it comes to stupid soul contracts, I kick out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
My favorite affirmation for that is because a lot of times people will say, like, and we think about it, and like I mentioned before, in kind of a linear, like head on kind of way, where it's like, I release you, I release you, I release you. But in doing it that way, we're also coming at it from a linear mind standpoint of I'm targeting and defining and identifying. And my multidimensional brain is, well, am I limiting myself by naming it? Or do I take a different approach and say I turn to source and I release all else? And
Mm,
like that's my go-to affirmation is just because in also in orienting to whatever that is, you're also kind of turning yourself towards it. And so what else is in in your blind spots basically by doing that. So I love to just orient to source and just like surrender and divine trust and just allow it to flow.
hmm. And here's my last question. A lot of my work on my YouTube channel is about the stupidity of savior programs. And
It's
but
good
they
work.
what?
It's good work.
Yeah, I found it essential to to grow up in a sense that we stop waiting for saviors. Be it the political savior, the alien savior, or the religious savior, or what have you. Um, Pretty easy. No savior coming. It's either we save ourselves,
Oh,
yeah, or not. End of story. And I think we have the tools for that.
I think you're absolutely right. To me, savior programs are one of the most insidious distortions in both the astral and physical realms, and
Hmm.
calling them out is really key to restoring our sovereignty. And so one of the biggest traps we've encountered both on the astral plane and in human consciousness is this savior program concept. It's the belief that someone or something outside of you will rescue, fix, or ascend you for you. And whether it's a guru, a galactic being, an AI, or a religious figure, the core lie is the same, that you're incomplete and you need saving. And so this program is not only like really disempowering, but it's designed to stall soul growth. It keeps people passive, looping, and externally focused instead of embodying their divine nature and engaging with life from a place of inner authority. In our work, we've found that true liberation comes not from waiting on a savior, but from embodying your own source connection and then walking as a sovereign being. So when you reclaim your frequency and operate from an organic alignment, you become your own revelation. And that's really the biggest threat to any control system out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we're all
go
stuck in
ahead.
programs, right? We're like there are all sorts of programs that they're trying to get us trapped in, right? I would say the savior program is huge, but also the victimization program
Hmm.
also massively huge, right? Like, and it's just being propagated everywhere. I'm a victim for this, I'm a victim for that. I mean, people we gotta get over being it's boring to be a victim forever, you know. Like maybe stay like there for a second and then be like, okay, this is old. But also there's these huge faith programs, right? And come on, you guys, light workers are have like similar problems like with these faith programs. Like if you just believe this enough, it will happen without observing and testing to see if that actually works. So beware of all the programs.
And I find it especially dramatic when the victim victimizer program is there, and then on top of it, you have a savior program running. That is really hard to,
There's some really ugly loops
yeah.
around victim, bully, and rescuer, and they come with a few different names as well. But in that triangle of shenanigans, I call it, in that everybody plays each role at some point. Like the savior then has to bully the bully, so then the bully becomes the victim, and the original victim is bullying the bully through the help of the savior. They can bully him to and it just loops in the most wildest, ridiculous ways. Yeah, but and I think that there's a few cultural things that want us to go into victimhood. Like feminism's great at victimhood. Like that's one of its key tenets is, you don't realize you're a victim, but it's really the truth. Um, and I'm not going to debate whether that's factual or not. But the ethos means that it drags our whole society into that victim, bully, savior triangle. And it's nothing good comes out of ever out of that triangle. It is the most pointless, ridiculous conversation you'll ever engage in. But there's they like to keep us in those loops. So
Well, and on a larger scale, I think it also speaks to how duality works. Like those are all
yeah,
roles that are part of the duality system that even, not just in a single incarnation, but even lifetime over lifetime, I think we've just constantly been kind of changing, our roles in that paradigm to weave
yeah,
together whatever wisdom that we came to seek out of it.
yeah. I look in. Yeah, I think the German historical story is just another example of trying to push that
Yeah,
template onto people. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And of course, that does not mean that you cannot be a victim. Let's say somebody comes up in the street and just for no good reason stabs you to death. Yeah, okay, that happens. And it happens here on a daily basis. Yeah, since a couple of years. And yeah, the statistics speak loudly, but the politics stay the same.
yeah,
But that is something different than victim programming. So just to because people sometimes are so, you know, irritated as if, yeah, but I became a victim and I was a victim of it. Yeah, of course you were. That is not what
But
we
just don't let it define your life.
exactly.
Don't let it be the pivot on which everything else spins.
Mm,
Yeah, learn from it, move on.
yeah. Yeah, guys. Is there anything that anybody wants to add to say what is burning under the nails, or shall we call it a night? For me, it's a night, Alobar.
Yeah, no, it's
And
it's
just by the way, thank you
it's
that
just
it
clocked over 7 a.m. here. So yeah,
yeah,
it's just the night has just ended. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
freezing. It's freezing here.
yeah. Yeah, and I want to thank you that it went all so smoothly over 3 time zones, and
Yeah.
that's not always the case.
Well, I think Alabar and Judith, you are the ones suffering the most here.
It's afternoon for us in the United States.
Yeah, but you know what? I was a flight attendant for more than 30 years. I'm used to that, to work at hours that nobody works, usually.
I love that. I'm getting into that kind of unique, non-traditional schedule myself because we are a team from all over the globe and some of our missions are 3 a.m. my time. And so it's like, well, how do we accommodate for that? Well, you just get more flexible and you nap and you do all the things you need to do to make it work. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I do have a limit because I'm no longer 25. So I would start, let's say, the latest an interview at 2300. Yeah. And
Yeah.
because then there comes a point where I have a problem concentrating and then I'm just swimming.
that's
Yeah.
fair. I decided a long time ago that I was going to stay 25 forever. So that's another one of my research projects that we'll see how it plays out.
You
But
know that I had the exact same. I remember that I was standing in front of the mirror. I was early in the morning, I was doing my makeup, and all of a sudden I thought, I'm 25 and that's it.
that's right. It's a
I
great
would stay
proclamation.
like that.
No, my auntie, she turned 27 like 15 times, I think. Like every year we have to keep celebrating her being 27. Okay.
Yeah, and now I'm
Awesome.
almost 70, you know. There you go.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Judith, for having us on your show. It's been such an amazing conversation, and I appreciate gathering in this way. And if it's okay for me to make a couple of plugs, I'd love to do that really quick.
Yeah, sure.
So, for anyone that resonates with me and wants to learn more about my frequency and what I'm up to, you can check me out at www.honestaliens.com and on my YouTube channel at Honest Aliens. We're building a cosmic community of sovereign beings reclaiming their divine blueprint, kind of one template and timeline at a time, sometimes lots of those at once. And as the self-appointed record keeper for Alabar's team, I'm pretty consistently posting summaries of our missions and what we're getting ourselves into on the astral planes. And so if this conversation resonates with you and you want to check out the work of our astral projection team, the Earth Guard Ascension Collective, you can find us at www.theearthguard.org. And also make sure to check out Alabar's astral projection course at alobarjones.com because it's awesome and you'll love it.
Yeah.
Earthguardwatch.org.
Theearthguard.org.
Okay. Do you have a website, Jamie, or
And
a
no,
YouTube channel?
Lenny's awesome though. Listen to her. Does a great job writing everything up and managing everybody. Go this way, go that way.
Aw, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Thanks,
forgot,
Lenny.
Jamie, do
Like
you
The teams
Do
have
you do?
grown to a point where I just can't do it all. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Jamie, do you do one-on-one sessions with people?
I help Alobar a little bit, but no, no.
Okay,
I'm a full-time mom, homeschooling mom, so I
that's totally
squeeze in
fair.
this work everywhere I can, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your website and YouTube channel, I have all that. I found your YouTube channel, and yeah, okay, I will put it all out in the description box, and in a couple of minutes, my patrons will see it, and they will be very happy to see it first.
Thank you so much, Judith. Wonderful.
Thank
Okay,
you, Judith.
so that
Bye.
was it, guys. Night flight for today, and we see you on the next one.